Radio Cayman in the Cayman Islands.
For the Record is brought to you by Vamped Motors, the only authorized Ford and Toyota dealership serving the Cayman Islands. And Cayman Pharmacy Group, with locations in West Base and professional pharmacy at CTMH Doctors Hospital. The Cayman Pharmacy Group has a location for you just around the corner.
Coming to you live from Radio Cayman Studio.
For the record.
For the record.
For the record.
Hear from your government officials,
independents, and the opposition on issues that matter to you.
For the record.
Engage in an open dialogue between residents and lawmakers.
For the record.
For the record. For the record.
Informative, impartial, insightful.
This is your talk show.
1-800-534-8255. Your calls, your input. This is For the Record. And now, your host, Orrett Connor.
Good morning and welcome to For the Record. Yes, it's me. If you're watching us, following us on YouTube, I have a haircut and all shaved up. Miss Susan made sure that I got that done. Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to For the Record. And I trust that everyone had an enjoyable weekend and that those of you who are already on the roads are driving extremely cautious, carefully, observing the rules of the road and being courteous on the roads as well. Those of you who are still at home and will be embarking on your journey later on, we urge you to do the same as well. Always remember that the life you save may just be your own. I want to thank you, our listening and viewing audience, for allowing Radio Cayman and, by extension, For the Record, into your homes, into your vehicles as you traverse the busy roads of the Cayman Islands, into your places of work, whether it be an office cubicle or if you're working in the outdoors. For the Record is a show produced by the staff and management of Radio Cayman, and it is geared towards keeping you abreast of issues as they arise and play out on the local, regional, and international scene. I am your host, Orrett Connor, and you're welcome to join me every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 7:30 a.m. until 9:30 a.m. The phone lines are always open. There is always someone there waiting to take your calls. Normally, that beautiful radio voice of Miss Susan Watson. You can call us on our toll-free number provided courtesy of Flo. That toll-free number is 1-800-534-8255. You can also call us on 949-8037 and 949-6990. If you don't like to talk on the telephone, email us at fortherecord. That is one word, fortherecord, at candw.ky. You can WhatsApp us on 925-3261, where we encourage you to leave us a text message or a voice note, the contents of which will be played during the course of the show. And, of course, you can follow us on YouTube simply by subscribing to Radio Cayman live stream. Not sure how many of you were able to see the blood moon last night. I'm not sure. I went outside, I think it was around about midnight, but skies were cloudy, so I couldn't see much. So I'm not sure if we had the privilege of observing it here in the Cayman Islands. But we're not going to talk about that this morning because there are some more important things to talk about. Something that has taken place next week, Monday. Of course, Monday is a holiday, Heroes Day. And it is my pleasure to have in the studio with me this morning none other than Mr. Alfonso Wright, who is the chairperson of Celebrate Cayman. Mr. Wright, good morning, sir. Welcome back to For the Record, and Happy New Year to you as well.
Good morning, OC, and I'm happy to be here. Good morning to all those listening and watching this morning. Happy New Year to you and all those folks out there. It's always a pleasure and having the opportunity to come in and have a chat with you, OC. And National Heroes Day is a very important event on our annual calendar. And Celebrate Cayman, we are very, very happy to have had the opportunity to be involved this year.
And on Monday, next Monday, all of the fruits of your labor will come to reality. And I'm sure that you're looking forward to it. The people of the Cayman Islands looking forward to it as well. Tell us, about how the plans are going and some of our expectations. I know one of our listeners called up last week and commented about the way that some people dress when they come to things like Heroes Day celebration, and we know that on the invite, you indicate on there business attire, and we stress, and I stressed, and the caller did as well, they agreed that at least those persons who are receiving awards should be dressed appropriately, for that as well.
Yeah, that's a good way to start the conversation, OC. You're absolutely right. That is extremely important, that people should have, proper decorum when they attend these events, and to have the utmost respect for what it is. Many of or most of the individuals that we honor have passed on, and we are recognizing them for their contributions to country. And so we expect people to be dressed properly, and we do specify that on all our invitations. That's always been. And it's the same again this year. For the event, it's at 9 in the morning, and we try our best to have it over completed in a normal time. But we do go to great lengths to make sure that people are properly covered. They're under good shade, under good tents, and maybe sometime in the distant future, we'll be able to have a more purpose design facility for things like this, but this is what we have right now. And the government does go to a lot of trouble to prepare for it. The roads and stuff are shut down from Saturday. It is in the area we call Hero Square, and even walking through that Hero Square is something that we also should have a lot of respect for. All right, the event starts at 9 as usual. We ask people to be seated by 8:30. Because of the difference in the type of event we're having this year, usually it's the nominated process, and you will have sometimes 300-400 awards that are giving out on National Heroes Day. It won't be those numbers this year. So we're doing our best to see if we can stay within the 2-hour period that the event could be over by 11. So we need people to be on time to understand that we have the usual ushers and stuff there who will get people to their proper seats and so on. There is a usual refreshments that are provided, again, free after the event. There is some music and stuff that's being organized by the Cayman Islands Music Association that will take part after. But we have a wonderful program that's been organized for it. I'll say this to you, Orrett, that we're honoring the 54 vestrymen who served when the coat of arms was created back in 1958. Vestrymen, the key word here, they were all men. And that's just the way things were back at the time. Women did not get the right to vote until 1959 and didn't participate in elections until the election following that in 1960. So we're trying to add a lot of strong women to the program, so to speak. And the one thing that we're doing, we know we've had women who've been master ceremonies before, but Miss Marzita Bodden, our deputy chair at Celebrate Cayman, who does a wonderful job, really has a gift for speaking.
Oh yes.
Good stage presence. Will be the master ceremonies for the event this year, and sad thing about it is Marzita is she just isn't able to prepare for the event. She prepare for emceeing the event. She's busy organizing the event as well. But I think that maybe gives her a better insight into the whole thing, and would be able to use that to her advantage. So the program goes along. The usual, the arrivals of the governor and the premier. We have the police parade contingent that will be taking part, the Cub Scouts and the uniform services. The usual proclamation by the speaker to get things started in the morning. A staple now of the Celebrate Cayman ceremonies, anything that we do like this now, we try to use the traditional conch shell as a signal of, we're back on land. We're on safe ground.
Yes.
We may even have a little bit of food and stuff for you. So we have a young man from Cayman Brac this year, Master Eugenio Miles, who was doing that for us. And we also try not just to involve women, but we are constantly reaching out to the young people to bring them into all this. We usually use Mr. Deal Ebanks.
Okay.
And we would have used Deal as well this year. Our plan was to have both of them do it. But Deal has a overseas commitment.
Okay.
But before I go on any further, I need to say that the event is a collaboration between Celebrate Cayman and the Protocol Office.
Okay.
Yeah, this is still under the auspices of Ms. Melanie Sims, who has done a wonderful job over the years and is in charge of the event again. This year we have our part to play. And we have a lot of public appearances to make this week in particular, so we're sharing them out. Mel will do some of them, Celebrate Cayman will do some of them. But it is a collaborative event between us, and there's a lot of work that's going on. We have Melanie in her office, in the cabinet office. It's myself, it's Caraco, is busy working on design and graphics for everything. There's a wonderful backdrop that people will be so proud of this year that Cara has designed, and that will be up on National Heroes Day. We have Miss Krista Watler, who works with us as well, but we have so many people who are in support that may not be directly involved but are supporting the event as we go along. Mr. Rudy Miles will be doing the national anthem for us. Rudy is just somebody that does a wonderful job of these public events whenever he has an opportunity, and Rudy never tells you no. Rudy never seems to be too busy to find time to do things like this, and a lot of times we take people like him for granted, but he has a lovely voice and does an excellent job on events like this. We have Miss Lavon Ryan out of Cayman Brac, who is doing the prayer, another strong Caymanian woman. And that's two Brackers now you may notice that we have on the program, and because we're trying to be inclusive with this whole thing and involve as many people from throughout Cayman Islands to take part in the event. We have there will be some remarks by myself as chairman of Celebrate Cayman, and the Minister for Culture, the Honourable Dwayne Seymour. The usual laying of the wreaths, which will be led off by the Cabinet Secretary, Mr. Samuel Rose. And all of the MLAs will play some significant roles this year in handing out the awards. We're trying to connect the the members of parliament with the districts that the vestrymen would have served back then. Now, I'll cut in right here. Maybe we can pick up a little later again. But I just want to say that, Mr. Connor, that we fortunate to have two of those vestrymen who served at the time that are still alive. Captain Owen Farrington, of course, has been very involved and has been a tremendous asset to the whole process of helping us put things together. And his memory has been so valuable to the whole thing. And Mr. Lindbergh Eden. I need to say this morning that unfortunately Mr. Eden is in the hospital right now. And we need to pray for his recovery. I'm hoping that he will recover, but we had indication before that he would not have been able to take part in the ceremony. Okay. So I'm asking the general public to send up their prayers. Don't underestimate the power of prayer for Mr. Eden.
Okay, we're going to take a commercial break. When we return, the conversation with the chairperson of Celebrate Cayman, Mr. Alfonso Wright, talking about Heroes Day celebrations next Monday, the 28th of January 2019. Please stay tuned for the record. We'll be back shortly.
The Cayman Islands boasts of a long, colorful, and rich history. In tribute to our roots, Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands, is pleased to bring you the Historical Vignette Series, sponsored by Cayman National Bank. Visit Cayman National Bank today for all of your financial needs. The Cayman Islands, He hath founded it upon the seas. Merle Adina Connolly, 1919-2000. Miss Merle Connolly was the daughter of Eleanora and Benoni Connolly. She was married to Samuel Chesley Connolly and had a family of 4 children. She spent much of her life in church of the Women's Fellowship, Sunday school teacher, elder, and president of the Christian Endeavor Society. Miss Merle enjoyed providing encouragement and advice to young people in East End. Christian Endeavor afforded her the opportunity to introduce young people to the arts. Among other activities, she directed plays and taught craft and sewing. She was certified in craft, especially plating silver thatch to make baskets and other articles. Her work was highly sought after by tourists and residents alike. She also enjoyed cooking and preparing traditional East End foods, such as stewed conch and heavy cakes, to assist with fundraising for the church and community projects. She touched the lives of all those with whom she came in contact with.
Radio Cayman's Historical Facts Vignettes are proudly brought to you by Cayman National, with branches on all 3 Cayman Islands. Visit Cayman National Bank today for all of your financial needs.
When you need stability, think Business of the Year.
Considering a new career opportunity, think Best Place to Work.
When dependability matters, think Outstanding Workforce.
In need of a reliable financial partner, think Bank of the Year.
When you seek excellence, think Cayman National.
No matter how many accomplishments we achieve, we always set the bar higher. That's why we are the most awarded bank in Cayman, and we are proud to be your
2018 Bank of the Year.
It's 2019, and you know what they say, new year, new me.
Yeah, Bobo. For me, it's new year, new car.
For real? What you thinking of buying?
The new RAV4 from Vant Motors. It's one of the safest compact SUVs out there with enough room inside, which is good for my family and convincing my wife we need this. Plus, it's fuel efficient, fun to drive, and on top of that, it's on sale too.
Yeah, and I hear it's one of the best-selling SUVs on the market.
Cause you don't gotta spend more to do more. That's why I'm gonna get mine now, while they have a new stock to select from.
Do more in your RAV4. Save thousands on the all-new 2019 RAV4. Test drive yours today and see why the RAV4 is a best-selling SUV in Cayman. Available only at Vant Motors, Walkers Road.
Since March 2004, West Bay Pharmacy has kept their doors open to the local communities, even before, during, and after Hurricane Ivan. At West Bay Pharmacy, our staff provides so much more than pharmaceutical excellence. From the moment you walk through our doors to completing your cash out, our staff will have put your healthcare concerns at ease. We would like to take this moment to thank our loyal friends and customers. To us at West Bay Pharmacy, our patients are our primary concern. We provide thorough background checks and precise calculations to ensure your medical safety. Thank you for being a part of our family and for choosing West Bay Pharmacy, where we care about your health.
National Heroes Day is a time to celebrate our history, heritage, and be inspired for the future.
This year, we are honoring the people who pioneered the establishment of our first national symbol, the coat of arms, celebrating our journey to modern-day Cayman, and recognizing organizations who served our community for over 50 years.
The ceremony begins at 9 a.m. on National Heroes Day, Monday, January 28th at Hero Square in Georgetown, with live entertainment and refreshments following the celebrations.
For more information, contact National Events at gov.ky or call 244-3612.
This National Heroes Day, Monday, January 28th.
Show your national pride
and celebrate Cayman
as we pay tribute to our national heroes.
Eats Cafe in the Fall Center on the West Bay Road is a sponsor of Radio Cayman's CI Retro Talk Today special Cayman Islands historical and cultural program series. Eats Cafe, celebrating 30 years of being Cayman's #1 breakfast location, offering you your best choice for a hearty, healthy, delicious breakfast. Eats Cafe, friendly service, pocketbook-friendly prices, and a pleasant surrounding. Eats Cafe, 30 years in Cayman. You can catch the NFL playoffs all month long right here on Big Screen TV. Be listening for our repeat broadcast of CI Retro Talk Today's Heroes Day Celebrate Cayman special program presentation on Thursday at 7 p.m. on Radio Cayman.
System 1 loaded.
1-800-534-8255. What is on your mind when it comes to the government, independence, and the opposition? Issues that matter to you. 1-800-534-8255. Waiting to hear from you. For the Record with your host, Orrett Connor.
Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. It is my pleasure to have in the studio with me this morning none other than Mr. Alfonso Wright, who's the chairperson of Celebrate Cayman. We're talking about Heroes Day celebration coming up next Monday, the 28th of January 2019. And before I give the mic back to Mr. Alfonso, he spoke about the blowing of the conch shell. And I recall the days when Mr. Lemuel McFeel, when they would come from fishing in the North Sound, that was one of the things that they did. Our house wasn't too far away, maybe 2 blocks away from Mr. Lem's house, and they would blow that conch shell, and let everybody know they're back from fishing. Now you can come and get your lobster, your fish, whatever. Those days we didn't have cell phones or even landlines.
You're right.
To call about, so you had to depend on the Mar Road and the conch shell.
Yeah, I don't have any memory of Mr. Lemmy McFeel. Who I have memory of is Mr. Hubert Ramon.
Yes, as well.
Right there where CN is now, and you were probably the same distance away from him that I was up on North Summer Road, kind of thing. But you knew. When you heard it, you knew what it was, because we didn't have all these extra noises and stuff all over the place at the time. And you heard the conch shell, and Hubert got fish, let's go. It was so. I believe that it's an important part of our history that we should try to keep up, to maintain. Whenever we can. It was a simple way of communicating.
It was,
and it worked. And what I was asking Deal, and he said he wasn't aware of anyone, whether there were any women in the community that does it, and I don't know yet. So if there are any women out there who is able to blow the conch shell well, to give us a call. We'd like to involve you at some point in time. The other part of the program is that another very important part of the program is that we consider 3 individuals as coat of arms pioneers, and they would be the then Commissioner Alan Donnell, Mr. or Reverend Arthur W. Saunders, who was from the Heraldry Society, that was heavily involved in putting the bits and pieces together and giving us advice and instructions as to how you do put a coat of arms together. And the third person would be Mr. Well, we got the Commissioner, Alan Donnell, and lost my train of thought here now. We'll see. Commissioner Alan Donnell, Reverend Saunders, and when the other name come back to me, I'll come back to you with that.
Okay.
But I've simply lost that now. We have the singing of the national song that will also take place. We're doing that a little bit different this year, in that we're having the Savannah School and Miss Erica Asai do the national song.
Okay.
And what it'll be with Erica will do the main verses, and the Savannah Primary School will sing the chorus, and we'll do the complete national song.
Yes,
is what we're doing now. So we will do that to the music of the professionally scored national song music that was done by the Scotts, Lisa and Dan Scott.
Okay, very briefly, if you may, can you talk a little bit about the success of the commemorative coin? I know they went off the shelf like hot cakes.
Well, you might get me in trouble here again. Again, see, that was a phenomenon. That was something that we simply did not expect was going to happen. We mentioned that with you here one morning on the radio. And by that afternoon, we were inundated with calls, and we had to just stop taking calls because the 250 coins we got were committed.
Right, and it was only 249 that we really could be sold because they had to keep one. Yes,
correct. So what we've done, OC, and SEMA will probably give me a spanking for this now, but we wanted to avoid that same run again. But we have reordered the coins. We've had to make a slight change to it because they were a limited edition, so we just couldn't reorder the same coin. So you had the certificates of authenticity that said you had one of 250 or 10 of 250. So we had to make some changes to the coin, but the changes that we've made to the coin improves the look, I would say. I think it makes it probably a little bit more sought after coin. But we have ordered an additional 350, and we were hoping that we might have been able to get them here for National Heroes Day, but that's not going to happen.
Okay.
So whenever they come in, then we will make that announcement in time. So right now it doesn't make any sense for anybody to call. We're not taking in orders or anything until we have them in hand and know when they can go on sale. We don't have the exact pricing yet, so I'm begging people to don't start calling. We can't manage it yet.
Yeah, I hope I didn't stir something up there.
We go with the flow.
Okay, we have some information that a lady by the name of Ina from West Bay and possibly her sister as well would have been two persons who knew how to blow the conch shell because their father was a fisherman.
Okay. Well, if you can get contact information for them, I'd like to be in touch.
What's the name? Malavina, well. Yeah.
Okay.
So anyone listening and knows those persons, please send us a WhatsApp, give us a call, let us know. Mr. Alfonso Wright would certainly be interested in hearing from them as well. We've reached the point where we have to go to our 8 o'clock news. When we return, the conversation with Mr. Alfonso Wright will continue, so please stay tuned.
Price Right is Grand Cayman's warehouse shopping superstore, making your dollar go further with huge savings and no membership fees. Get more of the things you use every day at the right price. But it's not just grocery and health and beauty. Price Right has a full range of products from office to automotive, patio furnishings to kitchen appliances, and even electronics. And since warehouse prices mean savings for you, everything is priced right at Price Right, Grand Cayman's warehouse shopping superstore.
Studio time by Price Right is 8 o'clock.
The voice of the Cayman Islands.
89.9 FM in Grand Cayman and 93.9 FM in Cayman Brac and Little Cayman.
Silver wings shining in the sunlight.
Radio Cayman.
Access information. Your community. News and information. Radio Cayman is your choice, your voice for today's biggest news. Radio Cayman.
With your latest news, I'm Carsley Fuller. People interested in discussing the future of Cayman gathered at the South Sound Community Center on Saturday.
This is the entrance table for the Cayman Vision 2020. And we have obviously a registration table.
The town hall meeting and forum was organized by CPR Cayman, a group calling for a referendum on the project to build cruise berthing piers in Georgetown. Johan Maxim.
We decided it would probably be a good idea to hold a public meeting where we could get everyone to just share their concerns, go through a question and answer sort of session, and effectively dispel all of the negative myths and innuendos that exist out there.
A variety of other organizations participated, including the National Trust and the Central Caribbean and Marine Institute, who took the opportunity to educate those in attendance about their respective concerns. Katie Karai is with CCMI.
These corals and their survival depends on our minimizing our impacts to them, because they're already facing enough detrimental impacts through the open ocean.
The meeting was followed by a screening of the film Rebirth. An article in the journal Yale Environment 360 showcases local efforts to protect the environment. Details from CIG-TV's Simon Boxall.
The article discusses the Department of Environment's efforts to rescue endangered pillar coral. It cites work on the Killer Pillar dive site off Grand Cayman's 7 Mile Beach to transplant healthy sections of coral. The work off 7 Mile Beach is being done in the context of global efforts by scientists to protect coral reefs from disease. To mark the publication of the article, the Department of Environment has released pictures of the work on the Killer Pillar on their Facebook page. The Yale article describes the results of the scientific intervention as promising.
In regional news, Caribbean hotels managed to build some strong momentum to close out 2018, according to the latest data from analytics firm STR. Caribbean Journal reports that the region's hotel occupancy stood at 63.7% last month, a 1.7% increase compared to December 2017. That was the second highest monthly increase for the region any month last year, and one of just 2 months of positive year-over-year occupancy growth. Average daily rates rose by 3.6% to $262.97, while revenue per available room surged by 5.4% at $167.40. For the year, Caribbean hotel occupancy saw an overall decline of 1.1% to 65.2%, while average daily rates were up 1.7% at $207.61, and RevPAR was up by 0.6% at $135.46. STR's data surveyed 1,992 hotels, comprising more than 250,000 rooms in the wider Caribbean region. Now, with a check of international news, here's the BBC, who will take us out of the newscast. I'm Carsley Fuller from Radio Cayman's newsroom.
BBC News with Eileen McHugh. China has confirmed the birth of the world's first gene-edited babies, saying the scientist involved acted alone and broke the country's rules. Investigators say He Jiankui deliberately evaded oversight to alter the genes of embryos. Mr. He announced the results of his work last November, drawing international condemnation. Economic growth in China has slowed to its lowest rate for nearly 30 years, prompting fears for the potential impact on the global economy. Official figures put the annual growth rate at 6.6%. The South African government has confirmed that it rejected a request from Zimbabwe for an emergency loan of more than $1 billion in December. Soon after the request was turned down, President Mnangagwa announced a sharp increase in the price of fuel, sparking protests. The Israeli Prime Minister has warned that the military will strike anyone who tries to harm his country. Benjamin Netanyahu was speaking after Israel announced that it had struck a number of sites inside Syria as part of its increasingly open effort to dislodge Iranian forces. The aid agency Oxfam suggests that India has experienced a sharp rise in inequality. In a report published ahead of the World Economic Forum in Davos, the agency says the wealth of the richest 1% increased by nearly 40% last year. And that's the latest from BBC News.
Access. Information. What's happening in your community? News and information, music and more. You can find us. www.radiocayman.gov.ky. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. Radio Cayman is your choice, your voice for today's biggest news. Radio Cayman.
If your 2019 resolutions include clear and healthy skin, then ask the pharmacist at Healthcare Pharmacy in Grand Harbor about Proactive and X-Out skincare products. Get your best blemish-free skin ever with dermatologist-developed Proactive. X-Out is a revolutionary doctor-developed acne treatment designed just for teens. This one-step face cleanser works 3 ways to clear up acne. Ask the pharmacist at the Healthcare Pharmacy in Grand Harbor for advice on Proactive and X-Out. 2019 will be your year of clear and healthy skin. Healthcare Pharmacy, Grand Harbor.
Tune in to Radio Cayman every morning at 7:20 a.m. for your daily weather update. Proudly brought to you by Miller's Plumbing and Accessories. With over 47 years of experience, they'll get the job done for you on time. Free estimate. Miller's Plumbing and Accessories. Call them at 949-4709 for a free estimate.
Hello, I'm Joseph Woods, the Acting Port Director. Our port facility is the hub of the Cayman Islands commerce and economic activity, handling $658 million in imported goods annually. From groceries to construction materials, all sectors of our economy depend on the port. But it is now 40 years old. Its infrastructure is degrading, and we feel the strain from insufficient space for both cargo and cruise operations. The time is now. A new expanded port facility is needed to allow both cargo and cruise to operate efficiently and to support our island's continued growth and development. Support the port, support our tourism, support Cayman's continued growth and development.
In financial news, world shares are mixed after China reported that its economy expanded at a 6.6% annual pace in 2018, its slowest since the slump that followed the crackdown on protests centered on Tiananmen Square in 1989. Germany's DAX fell 0.4% to 11,159, while the CAC 40 in France slipped 0.2% to 4,865. Britain's FTSE 100 added 0.2% at 6,978. On Wall Street, the future contract for the Dow Jones Industrial Average fell 0.3% to 24,603, while that for the S&P 500 also fell 0.3% to 2,662. In Asia's day, the Shanghai Composite Index added 0.6% to 2,610, and the Hong Kong Hang Seng Index climbed 0.3% to 27,196. Japan's Nikkei 225 Index rose 0.3% to 20,719, while South Korea's Kospi was flat at 2,124. Looking at energy, U.S. crude lost 10 cents to $53.94 per barrel in electronic trading on the New York Mercantile Exchange. It rose 3.3% on Friday to $54.04 in New York. Brent crude, used to price international oils, gave up 19 cents to $62.51 per barrel. It added 2.5 percentage points to $62.70 a barrel in London on Friday. And in currencies, the dollar fell to 109.63 yen from 109.78. The euro strengthened to 1.1371 from 1.1364.
A pleasant good morning. Time now for the latest weather report. Current temperature is 76 degrees. Relative humidity is 76%. Barometric pressure 30.08 inches and rising. The wind is north at 11 knots. Overnight low temperature was 74 degrees. Synopsis indicate fresh to strong northeasterly winds and rough seas will continue across the Cayman area as a stationary front lingers over the Cayman area and its associated high-pressure system builds over the eastern United States. Radar images show isolated showers in and around the Cayman area moving south. Now the forecast for the Cayman Islands for today, calling for partly cloudy to cloudy skies with a 30% chance of showers. Temperatures will be in the low 80s today. Your winds will be north to northeast at 15 to 20 knots with higher gust, and seas will be rough with wave heights of 5 to 7 feet, with some swells likely along the west and north coast of Grand Cayman. A small craft warning is in effect. Tonight, partly cloudy to cloudy skies with a 40% chance of showers, and temperatures will fall to the low 70s tonight. Your winds will be northeast at 15 to 20 knots with higher gusts this evening, increasing to 20 to 25 knots from late tonight, and seas will be rough with wave heights of 5 to 7 feet this evening, increasing to 6 to 8 feet from later tonight. Swells are likely along the west coast of Grand Cayman for tonight as well. A small craft warning remains in effect. High tide will be this afternoon at 8 minutes past 12. Low tide this evening at 6:59. The sun will set this evening at 6:10 and will rise tomorrow morning at 2 minutes after 7. And the outlook is calling for similar weather conditions through Wednesday morning as the cold front lingers in our area and the associated high-pressure system to move over the western Atlantic Ocean. And that familiar theme tells us once again it's time to take a look what's happening traffic-wise. Busy traffic coming from the east on Shamrock Road and also on the Linford Pearson Highway. Some slight delays expected as you're heading down to Georgetown. Coming off Bobby Thompson Way, moderate flow of traffic. And traffic on North Sound Road is steady but flowing. And the traffic moderate on Edward Street in front of the Georgetown Post Office. And traffic is flowing moderately in both directions on the West Bay Road, especially in front of the Ritz. Traffic on Edward Street, light to moderate. And let's take a look at what's happening on Crew Road. Crew Road, some sections is steady, other sections a little busy. So bear that in mind as you move on down to Georgetown. That's the very latest on your traffic. Join us again at about 10 minutes after 12. We'll update you traffic-wise.
It's the CMEA's 11th Annual Music Festival Weekend, coming January 25th to 28th, Heroes Day Weekend. 5 events over 4 days. Friday the 25th, catch the DJ Showcase.
Cayman Cabana,
Soul Karama,
Carib Cafe,
Reggae Revolution, Silverside's Dance Party.
Saturday the 26th, see the Young Musicians Showcase at 1 p.m. at the Hawkville Theater, followed by the Hero Salute at 7 p.m. at the Havana Club. Sunday the 27th, don't miss the Music Awards ceremony at the Hawkville Theater. And on Monday, Heroes Day, the live music showcase will merge with the Heroes Day ceremony in Georgetown for an evening of live local music. For more detailed information or tickets for the 11th Annual Music Festival, call 928-7665 or visit the Cayman Music and Entertainment Association on Facebook. Music Festival Weekend, 4 days, 5 events. Don't miss the celebration of Cayman's top musical talent.
Radio Cayman's premier health show,
For the Health of It, with Tara Bush,
is brought to you on Saturdays at 9:30 a.m. and Wednesdays at 7 p.m. on 89.9 and 93.9 FM. Proudly brought to you by the Cayman Islands Civil Service Association. For more information on how you can become a member or the benefits of the CICSA, please visit www.cicsa.ky. For your convenience, the CICSA offices are open on Mondays from 9 to 12 p.m. and Thursdays from 1 to 4 p.m.
For the Health of It, with Tara Bush.
The 2019 Extra Cayman Arts Festival returns with events to soothe your musical palate. February 5th through the 9th. On Tuesday, February 5th, 6 p.m. at Westin Hotel Ballroom, taking sips and sounds with the Island Brass Quintet. Thursday, February 7th, 6 p.m. at Camana Bay Cinema. See Nick Cartledge, Flute Recital, and the New York Cabaret Night at Marriott Hotel Ballroom. Saturday, February 9th, 6:30 p.m. For more information on the 2019 Extra Cayman Arts Festival. And to purchase tickets, visit CaymanArtsFestival.com. Or you can email inquiries at CaymanArtsFestival.com or call 922-5550. The 2019 Cayman Arts Festival proudly sponsored by Butterfield, Walkers, Island Heritage, CIBC, Cayman National, Richard and Royson Addlestone, High Impact Media, Foster's, and Radio Cayman.
At Kirk's Home Center, we can make your life much better. We got it all together. We got a great deal in store for you.
Did you make resolutions for healthier eating? Then weigh portions on a kitchen scale for $5.99 and make noodles of your favorite vegetables with a tabletop spiralizer for $36.09. Or try an indoor electric low-fat grill from Gotham for $39.05. Eliminate clutter and maximize space with a cubicle storage organizer for $68.49. And save on a 5-gallon wet-dry vac for only $55.99.
Kirk's Home Center. We got a great deal in store for you.
Flowers Bottled Water is a sponsor of Radio Cayman's CI Retro Talk Today, special Cayman Islands historical program series. Flowers Bottled Water, the cooler water. Telephone 949-8688. We invite you to listen to our repeat broadcast of CI Retro Talk Today's Heroes Day Celebrate Cayman special program presentation on Thursday at 7 p.m. on Radio Cayman.
The inter-primary basketball rally saw just about 200 boys and girls within 25 teams from both private and public schools at the John Gray High School Gymnasium. The mini basketball tournament was a prelude to the regular league season, which gets going this Friday. Truth for Youth coach Orvin Palacio says his team is pretty new, so it's back to the drawing board for them.
I thought that the rally went very well. The atmosphere was very exciting from the very first game. I think that is something that we need to look on trying to do moving forward, trying to do a little bit more for the kids. It really piqued their interest in the game and moving on from here.
How did you guys do today?
We didn't do too well. For the most part, my two teams basically just started training on Monday, so they don't know a lot of the ins and outs. So the plan is to go back to the drawing board now and try to get them into what it is that they need to do so that they could be a little bit better during the season.
The Inter-Primary Basketball League starts this Friday at basketball courts in various districts across Grand Cayman from 1 until 3. In international sports and tennis news, Serena Williams outlined why she is the favorite to win the Australian Open with a 6-1, 4-6, 6-4 win over top seed Simona Halep in a high-quality last 16 match. The 37-year-old American dismantled Halep's game to race through the opening set in 20 minutes. 27-year-old Halep recovered in the second, breaking in what proved to be the final game. Williams, seeded 16th, saved 3 break points for the 3-all in a decider, crucially winning the next game to seize control.
Initiating system.
For information that matters, For the Record with Orrett Connor continues right now on Radio Cayman.
Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. In the studio with me, Mr. Alfonso Wright, who's the chairperson of Celebrate Cayman. We're talking about next Monday, the 28th day of January 2019, and our Heroes Day celebration taking place then. We have one caller. Let's go to the phone lines. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Good morning, O.C.
Good morning, ma'am. How are you?
Very thankful and highly blessed. Good morning, Alfonso.
Hi, good morning, Miss Eula. How are you?
Boy, you called my name too, you know.
But of course.
I am very good. Listen to me, I'm thankful and blessed. Listen to me now, Alfonso. Every time I get to see you in person or by phone, it just slips me because I have so much to tell you.
Okay.
About the same Heroes Day thing here, right?
Yes, ma'am.
About a record around.
Mm-hmm.
As for the veteran for West Bay representative,
mm-hmm.
I am looking now at the very last program that was for the launching. I did get the very last program that had the launching. And in here, one name is missing for the West Bay men. I can name you now who's on that program.
Okay.
This is Spurgeon Ebank.
No, just tell me which one is missing.
My granduncle.
Who is that?
And that is Jacob Manderson.
Okay, here is, let me explain that for you. A lot of people, I get a lot of calls from people that talk about this. And what we have to understand is that the vestrymen that we're talking about now are those that served from 1956 to 1958 when the coat of arms was created. There are hundreds of other vestrymen out there. who served in other periods. But the period that we are honoring right now are those who were there when the coat of arms was created. This set was elected in August of 1956 and served until August of 1958 when there was another election because there were 2-year terms at the time. So the people that are in here, they're the ones that should be here. Mrs. Madison would have served in a different period, different time.
Thanks for that.
Yes,
Thank you very much for that.
Yes.
Thank you very much, caller, as well. Mr. Funzel?
Yeah, Mr. Connor, when we were, when I had that memory lapse, just before we went to the break.
And I wasn't much help.
No, not at all. We were talking about honoring the pioneers, and Mr. Jimmy Ford was the other person who played a significant role in the creation of the coat of arms.
Mm-hmm.
He was a gentleman who was the owner of the Caymanas Yacht Club at the time that then became the Ports of Call and now the Wharf.
Mm-hmm.
And we understand that there are records of designs and stuff that he put forward in assisting with the coat of arms, and they are individuals who have some memory of visiting the premises. And you know that a lot of useful conversations go on in bar rooms, whether we want to accept that or not. But it's something that we can't get away from. But there are people who will talk about him. They go in there and he is there sitting by a table and doodling and drawing and what do you think about this kind of thing. So they are the three individuals. It is the Commissioner Alan Donald, Reverend Arthur W. Saunders, who was from the Heraldry Society and the Methodist Church, and Mr. Jimmy Ford, who incidentally, Mr. Willard Bawden from down north as
Foxy.
we used to call it.
Uh-huh.
His son, Jimmy Ford, is named after this gentleman. So there are a lot of lasting legacies that are here with this. And I want to also say that we have been going to great lengths to try to locate individuals, relatives of these three individuals, that we so we can make some contact with them, and we've had some limited success, and hopefully between now and National Heroes Day, maybe something fruitful will come forward.
Look forward to anything.
Yeah, absolutely. You'll be the first to know, I promise you.
Okay, great.
But we're talking about those that we are going to honor, OC, but we need to, refresh everybody's memory that it is National Heroes Day. These people are not being considered heroes, but we are recognizing them on National Heroes Day.
Yes.
And just for everyone's sake, I just want to go through the list of our nine heroes. We know that Mr. Jim Bawden was our first national hero. We also have Mr. William Warren Connolly. Can't remember him by heart now. I gotta read it. No, see. Just give me
Miss Sybil McLaughlin.
Yeah, Miss Sybil McLaughlin.
Barrington, I think. Yeah.
Got to where I lost my page here. Coming. So we have Mr. Jim Bawden. We have Mr. Warren Connolly. We have Mr. Willie Farrington. Honorable Willie Farrington. We have Miss Joyce Hilton, Honorable Joyce Hilton. We have Honorable Sybil Ione McLaughlin. We have Honorable Dr. Roy Edison McTaggart. And we have Honorable Ormond L. Panton, Honorable Desmond V. Watler, and Honorable Mary Evelyn Wood as our 9 national heroes. And we're lucky, we still have one of them that's alive, Miss Sybil McLaughlin, is still with us, and we thank God for that. So while we are honoring the 54 vestrymen and these 3 pioneers who, were significantly involved with our coat of arms, we will also be speaking about those national heroes as well. And a new feature of this year's National Heroes Day, or it will be, we're honoring a group of companies that we're calling the 50 Club, which will be connected to each of these national heroes as to the things that they stood for, the legislation and stuff that some of them would have brought, the public campaigns that they would have championed, and so on. So we are honoring some of, we cannot do all. So I know we're going to get a little bit of criticism here and there. Well, I didn't hear my company name called, but we're highlighting some of the companies that have been around for 50 years plus, who would be part of this Cayman success story. Because we talk about the tourist and financial industry that got its start in the 1970s and so on, but there was some very significant political and awareness changes that came about in the 1950s and 60s that laid the platform for what then caused the spin-off of the tourism and financial industry. So we have to understand that your platform starts a long way ahead of where you're building and things you eventually construct.
Precisely.
So we are honoring quite a few of them. We cannot do all, but there will be special mention of some of those companies who have been around here for the last 50 year plus, and that will be another significant part of the morning activities.
And you said the number 50. That's the number of companies that you of the 50.
No, we didn't. We're doing as much as we can because we do want the ceremony to not last any longer than 2 hours.
Got you.
Yeah, so we just need for people to understand that we're doing some of, not all of the companies that were around for the 50-year plus period. But there are some very significant players, that's been around here and helped to lay the foundation, and they rightfully should be recognized.
Precisely. Okay, we're running out of time, so I want to give you an opportunity, for a wrap up and any important points that we need to stress or reemphasize.
Well, I said to you that we're doing our best to involve all of our members of Parliament, and they do. We've had a tremendous amount of support from the entire member list of MLAs, and I'd like to say in particular, the leader of the opposition has been very supportive and has gotten involved in just about everything that we've done. So I want to thank him for that. All right, I don't know whether or not you will allow me. I would like to call all the names of the 54 vestrymen. I don't know if that'll take me too far into your.
I think we can spare 2 minutes for that. Yes.
Okay. We have from West Bay. We have Mr. This is the vestryman, and I'll label him as I go along. Mr. Spurgeon Andrew Ebanks. We have Captain James Cadian Ebanks. People always refer to him as Captain Cady. We have Mr. James Stafford Ebanks. Banks. He was Ebanks at the time that he served, and then he changed his name to Banks after that. Of course, we all know Mr. John Garston Smith. We have Captain Owen Farrington. These are justices of peace that served in the vestry at the time. Captain Charles Ebanks Glidden, Captain Thomas William Farrington, Thomas Abraham Ebanks, John Samuel Ebanks, Samuel Osbert, Mr. Bertie Ebanks, Lee Alfonso Ebanks, Georgetown vestrymen, Edgar Ducan Merrin, Ormond Lauder Panton, Hugh Malcolm Coe. I think most of us would remember him as Mr. Male Coe. Yep. William Wallace Bodden, I think we always used to refer to him as
Mr. Bill Wallace.
Mr. Bill Wallace.
Yes.
Yeah. So Mr. Alan Berkeley Bush, Justices of Peace for Georgetown, Captain Rael Brasley Bodden Sr., Edmund Samuel Parsons, Ernest Otte Panton, Thomas Frederick Hill, Major Joseph Rodriguez Watler,
Mr. Roddy, known as Mr. Roddy Watler.
That's right. Desmond Very Watler, James Ashford Panton, and Otto Gordon Hulston. Savannah, we had M.S. Mortimer Forbes, also known as Mr. Champe.
Yes.
And as I look at the information we have on Mr. Champe, we have been unable to find a recent picture of him. Family has searched, and Ivan did us a whole lot of injustices with records like that. So people lost a lot of things. But if there is anybody out there who has a photo of Mr. Champe, we'd love to have it. Bordentown, we have William Benjamin McCoy. I think he was usually referred to as Uncle Bill. George H. Ricketts. We have Harold Stewart. Harold Stewart is another one that we don't have any bio or a photo on. So if there's anybody out there who would be able to help us with a photo of Mr. Harold Stewart. Now, I've been working closely with Miss Mira Lawrence, who has been a great help to us as well. And she's been making all kind of phone calls and visiting people, but so far we've not come up with anything there. But if anybody has a photo of Mr. Harold or can give me some information on him, we'd love to have that. We have Mr. Alfred Biddle Bodden, James Lobner Berry. Justice of Peace, here's another one that we need information on. There's a gentleman named Richard Philip Bodden. That, again, we don't have any photos or any bios. This was a gentleman that had his past, but he had three children. All three of them have passed, and they didn't have any children. Okay, so that lineage was we
lost that there.
Yeah. So if there's anyone out there, and if Miss Mary doesn't have it, it's difficult to find. Thomas Logan Bodden. East End, we have vestryman William Allen McLaughlin, his son Norman Rudolph McLaughlin, and Mr. Lincoln Benjamin Bodden. Justice of Peace for East End was Mr. Austin Burns Connolly, so he would have been Mr. Warren Connolly's father. North Side, we have vestryman Kenneth Norman Chisholm and Olney Albury Ebanks. Justice of Peace for North Side was Mr. Bertram Ebanks. Prospect, we have Mr. Lawrence Thompson.
Because those days, Prospect was a district.
Prospect was a district.
Yes.
Mr. Lindbergh Eden, that's where he served at the time. And Mr. James Carl Thompson. Sister Islands, vestryman Captain Charles Gerald Cockernell, Captain Keith Parker Tibbets, Captain Robert Clifton Foster, Arnold Ethelyn Foster. Justice of Peace, Captain Edwin Ellis Walton, James Nathaniel Tibbets, Aston Shedden Rutty, Wade Taylor Foster, John Cummins Lazary, Reginald Bloomfield Cockernell, George Lawford George Lawrence. And this is a gentleman who came from Jamaica that was the pharmacist. I think back in the day they used to call them the dispenser.
Yeah.
And he came and lived in the Brack and worked and died, and he's buried there. And I have been told that his only living relative here in Cayman is Mr. Lascelles Lawrence. Lascelles that used to work for Port Authority.
Okay, yes.
Right, and I've been trying to reach him. So if I have a number for him, but it doesn't work. And if there's anybody know how I can get in contact with Mr. Lascelles, I'd be happy if you could call me 916-14 And then we have Mr. Dennis Haley Foster. We all know Mr. Dennis, who went on to be Chief Secretary.
Yes.
They are the 54 vestrymen and Justices of Peace that will be honored on National Heroes Day, Monday. So, Orrett, I want to say thanks for the opportunity again. I don't know if we're back on with you again this week, but we have quite a few appearances on other radios, and I think we'd probably be here in the midday show with Sterling at some point as well.
Right. Well, if you have anything exciting to announce, we'll try to see if we can fit you in on Friday morning, if we can still beg a little spot from the opposition.
I'll let you, like I say, you'll be the first to know if something exciting happens.
Excellent.
But I just want to ask people to make preparations to attend National Heroes Day on Monday, the 20th of January. It's going to be a wonderful morning. We've gone to great lengths to not make it as long as it used to be because we have a limited number of people that are being honored this time. So remember the dress code. That's extremely important. There are invitations that have gone out. There are invitations that are still going out, but the general public is invited. Anybody can attend, and we want as many people as we possibly can to come out to this year's National Heroes.
And if you don't get your invitation, just crash the party.
That's exactly right.
Folks, please stay tuned. We're going to take a break now. When we return, we will be talking with folks from the Needs Assessment Unit, and we will also have with us MLA and Councillor Mr. Austin Harris. So please stay tuned. For the record, we'll be back immediately after this commercial break.
It's 2019, and you know what they say, new year, new me?
Yeah, Bobo. For me, it's new year, new car.
For real? What you thinking of buying?
The new RAV4 from Vant Motors. It's one of the safest compact SUVs out there with enough room inside, which is good for my family and convincing my wife we need this. Plus, it's fuel efficient, fun to drive, and on top of that, it's on sale too.
Yeah, and I hear it's one of the best-selling SUVs on the market.
Cause you don't gotta spend more to do more. That's why I'm gonna get mine now, while they have a new stock to select from.
Do more in your RAV4. Save thousands on the all-new 2019 RAV4. Test drive yours today and see why the RAV4 is a best-selling SUV in Cayman. Available only at Vant Motors, Walkers Road.
It was a day that changed my life. No words can describe the feelings of seeing my baby boy sick for the first time. The overwhelming feeling of fear to be responsible for his health and happiness became my priority. So I did what any nurturing mother would do when their baby is sick. I took him to get some of the best medicine possible.
CTMH Doctors Hospital Pharmacy understands the importance of careful decisions you make every day for your family. Our staff work towards healthcare excellence and providing the most current and up-to-date training with pharmaceutical care, so you can feel confident in knowing that your family is safe with the right medication. At CTMH Doctors Hospital Pharmacy, we take care of your health.
We are Radio Cayman, and this is how we wake you up in the morning. Praise time on Radio Cayman.
Sing your praise to the Lord. Come on, everybody, stand up and sing one more. Hallelujah, give your praise to the Lord. We are united in Jesus Christ. We are the soldiers of the land.
Praise time.
Weekday mornings from 6 until 6:30.
There's a meeting up in heaven. Roll call. It's a name in the name in the Lamb's Book of Life. Roll call, brother, sister. Roll call. If you don't stop shouting, if you don't stop dancing, we're going to put you out of our church.
Praise time.
Jesus in the morning, yeah.
Weekday mornings from 6 until 6:30.
Your song flowed through my lips. Your work moved through my hands. Your thoughts stay on my mind. Live in me.
Radio Cayman, maintaining the innovation.
On a daily basis, making it easy to connect with you, our listeners. Add us to WhatsApp today, 925-3261. That's 925-3261.
Radio Cayman.
Send a text or voice note.
Can I send a request, please?
You don't really have to ask us. Just send a request.
This is a shout out to my ex.
Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands.
Radio Cayman, maintaining the innovation.
System 1 loaded.
1-800-534-8255. What is on your mind when it comes to the government, independence, and the opposition? Issues that matter to you. 1-800-534-8255. Waiting to hear from you. For the Record with your host, Orrett Connor.
Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. We have a full house in the studio now, and for those of you who know about poker, a full house is 3 of one kind and 2 of the other. So it is my pleasure to have in the studio with me, as I mentioned at the close of the other segment, that we would have MLA and Councillor Mr. Austin Harris with us. We have other guests in the studio as well, and I'm going to have Mr. Harris introduce the other guests as well. First of all, I want to say good morning, welcome back to For the Record, and a Happy New Year to you, Mr. Harris, and to everyone else as well.
Good morning, OC. Certainly a pleasure to see you. Haven't seen you since last year, so Happy New Year to you and the Radio Cayman family. Certainly want to thank Radio Cayman for always hosting the government and giving us the opportunity to share the important work that is being done in the name of the people of the Cayman Islands. Certainly want to also likewise say a special happy Monday good morning to all of those tuned in to us this morning, and hopefully we'll have a good discussion. It is a pleasure to once again have the opportunity to share a studio with you as we seek to discuss today a very important topic, an essential topic to a lot of people in the Cayman Islands. Of course, that is the delivery of social assistance, both in terms of the temporary and permanent assistance through the Needs Assessment Unit, and also, of course, the important work of the Department of Children and Family Services. And hopefully this morning we will have an opportunity to, well, I won't say educate, but certainly inform the listening audience on the challenges, but also the unique opportunities that are represented by both of these essential departments in the government structure. It is my pleasure to be joined this morning, of course, ladies first, by the Director of the Department of Children and Family Services, Ms. Paulinda Mendoza-Williams, the Director of the Needs Assessment Unit, Ms. Tamara Hurlston, the Deputy Chief Officer of the Ministry of Community Affairs, and someone who quite frequently becomes more and more of a right hand in these matters. Mr. Andre Ebanks are with us this morning, and certainly it's a pleasure, and I thank each of them for giving time away from their busy morning schedules to be with us. Today's purpose, OC, is to share, I guess in part, the government's vision and approach to the reform of social assistance here in the Cayman Islands. As you know, shortly after taking office, the government established 8 strategic goals and objectives that it seeks to accomplish that will otherwise underpin their term in office. Number 6 deals specifically with social assistance, and that is, of course, seeking to address those most vulnerable and building stronger communities. I think an important part of building those stronger communities comes from how we care for those most vulnerable in our society, our children, our families, and of course, the elderly. The government is now engaging in what is, particularly the Ministry of Community Affairs is engaging in its second round of consultations as it seeks to deliver the reform of the various social assistance programs. In July 2018, last year, we began Phase 1, which really gave us the opportunity to sort of take a holistic view in terms of how social assistance is delivered in the Cayman Islands. And it's not, contrary to popular belief, administered purely by the Ministry of Community Affairs. There's a health component through the indigent medical. There is a home affairs through the Department of Counseling. There is a human resources element, certainly the jobs front, and of course the actual deliverable of these services through the Ministry of Community Affairs. So we decided to take a step back and take a look at what are the synergies between these various ministries, what is working well, what is not working well. How do we believe through open and frank discussions on areas in which these programs may be improved? That was an extremely valuable exercise. We had the ability to establish a working group, which of course is chaired by the director of the Needs Assessment Unit, Ms. Tamara Holston, and comprises the Department of Children and Family Services, the Needs Assessment Unit, and ministry staff to undertake the enhancement of financial assistance operations in the Cayman Islands. That first working group was Phase 1. Phase 2, which we anticipate will be launched. Again, I leave it to my key operators here to give us the specific timelines as to when they anticipate that will be unveiled on the public. But the Phase 2 will include having conversations with other stakeholders, specifically in private sector, as well as the non-profit organizations who, just to give you an example of some of them, Feed Our Future, Acts of Random Kindness. These are organizations that are essential to the delivery of social assistance because they supplement the work that the government is doing. I've said on previous occasions that the challenge of overcoming social assistance or social welfare isn't just a problem for the Ministry of Community Affairs, but it is a Caymanian problem. And the solution is not going to come from one department or the other, but instead all of us working hand in hand to overcome these challenges, both public sector and private sector. So we're delighted at the opportunity to be here, delighted at the opportunity to share what some of our some of the broad strokes of the policy and the strategy towards addressing social assistance. We believe these consultations will work to help us to formulate that specific strategy and guide those policy changes and directives that will follow. So that is, I think, the broad strokes as to what brings us here together this morning. And as always, we look forward to engaging with not only the panel members here, but certainly members of the public and hearing their thoughts as well.
Okay, with that, we're going to take a commercial break. When we return, the conversation will continue, so please stay tuned. For the record, we'll be back shortly.
It's 2019, and you know what they say, new year, new me?
Yeah, Bobo. For me, it's new year, new car.
For real? What you thinking of buying?
The new RAV4 from Vant Motors. It's one of the safest compact SUVs out there with enough room inside, which is good for my family and convincing my wife we need this. Plus, it's fuel efficient, fun to drive, and on top of that, it's on sale too.
Yeah, and I hear it's one of the best-selling SUVs on the market.
Cause you don't gotta spend more to do more. That's why I'm gonna get mine now, while they have a new stock to select from.
Do more in your RAV4. Save thousands on the all-new 2019 RAV4. Test drive yours today and see why the RAV4 is a best-selling SUV in Cayman. Available only at Vant Motors, Walkers Road. This is Cayman Up Close, a weekly special feature from Radio Cayman News.
I'm Shanda Gallego.
Shanda Gallego goes behind the scenes with Cayman's newsmakers, artists, and emerging talent to get their unique and personal experience, their real story.
This week, we turn the spotlight.
Sundays at noon, 6:10 p.m. and 10:10 p.m. and always online at radiocayman.gov.ky. Tune in for Cayman Up Close this weekend.
Thursday at 7 p.m., you can hear a repeat broadcast of CI Retro Talk Today's Heroes Day Celebrate Cayman special program presentation brought to you by Hell Service Station, Hell Road in West Bay. Family owned and operated for over 45 years. Now that calls for a celebration. Hell Service Station, where you're more than a customer, you're part of the family. Visit Hell Service Station for all of your car care products.
If you are seeking a bachelor's, master's, or doctorate degree, the Ministry of Education is now accepting applications for the 2019 Overseas Scholarships. Give yourself the education you deserve and apply today. All scholarship applications must be submitted by January 31st, 2019. For more information on scholarships and the application process, kindly visit education.gov.ky.
Initiating system.
For information that matters. For the record with Orrett Connor. Continues right now on Radio Cayman.
Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. In the studio with me this morning, we have MLA and Councillor Mr. Austin Harris. We have Mr. Andre Eubanks, who is the Deputy Chief Officer in the Ministry, Ms. Tamara Hurlston, who's the Director of the Needs Assessment Unit, and we also have with us Ms. Paulinda Mendoza Williams, who is the Director of the Children and Family Services. And I'm going to start off with Ms. Mendoza Williams, and first of all, congratulating her on her appointment as Director of Children and Family Services. And my personal view is well deserved. Feel confident that you're going to do a good job, and you're a familiar face for the people of the Cayman Islands, as well as those people who you seek to serve and to provide services for them as well. So, Ms. Mendoza Williams, good morning. Welcome to For the Record. And again, congratulations.
Good morning, Mr. Connor, and thank you for those best wishes. And good morning to our listening public.
And if we can talk a little bit about Children and Family Services and, how do you fit into this picture? The big picture. The big picture. Yes.
Well, let me just start by sharing with the public as to the services that we currently provide as a department. Our services are quite diverse in terms of social work practice, but not unique. So we are responsible for child protection matters under the Children's Law, which guides our department. We also have additional services which involve youth services in regards to youth justice matters. So we deal with juvenile justice, where our young people may come up against going into the justice system. We also work closely with our family services team, and that deals with an array of services from family counseling, individual counseling, addressing matters of maintenance and affiliations, custody matters, residence order matters, access matters for children who may be involved in a level of custody disputes between parents. We have our foster care and adoption team, as that also says adoption. We're the agency that vets the applications and takes the process through to the board, as well as seeing it to the court. Foster care services, again, we have community-based homes as well as our residential homes, where we, unfortunately, at times, we have to place children in those homes, no fault of their own, but because of family circumstances. Of course, our first option is always to look at friends and family in the community to place children if we need to. So I know common belief is that the department removes people's children. That is not our first option. As I said, we look at community-based family settings if we have to remove our children. We're also responsible for the Adult Special Needs Program, and that is a program that addresses the needs of our elderly and also disabled and certain populations of mentally ill individuals. Again, whilst we have our Golden Age home, our East End Sunrise Cottage, we have Maple House, and of course we have Kim and Brack, who has the KCC home. Just to be specific in regards to our Maple House setting, we have children in that setting, and that's, again, a safe home for children who, for no reason of their own, have experienced a level of child abuse and neglect, and under a court order, they have been placed there. So we have quite a large grouping of our staff that deal on a 24-hour shift working with that population, and I just want to take the opportunity to say a very big shout out to that staff, because they are around the clock staff. Well, our social work team are as well, but our adult special needs staff are really, really hardworking, dedicated. We have persons who have been on that team for 20 and 25 years plus working in our programs. We also have our community development program, where we have community development officers who go out into the community and act as advocates, liaise with public and private organizations, look at the needs of communities, and be able to offer the support and services that various communities require. Just to state that we are in the process of restructuring that program to be more of one where we are enabling communities to be more self-sufficient, to look at the challenges and the weaknesses and the resources within their communities to be able to maintain whatever programs that their community requires. So it's not something that's solely required or sourced or funded by government, but also mobilizing communities to take care of themselves.
Okay. Now, I was flipping through copies of the old Trade Winds newspaper in the mid-'60s, and there was an interview with the one and only probation officer at that point in time who was appointed, Mrs. Joyce Hilton. Mm-hmm. We have come so far between 1965, 1966, and now, and the demands that are placed on our society, despite the fact that we've become much more affluent, rich in terms of monetarily. I'm not sure, if people would admit that we're rich in other areas, as well. Some people may say our moral compass, may have gone the other way or whatever. But how do we explain coming from one probation officer in the Cayman Islands, and that person, Ms. Joyce, did everything. If you were truant from school, if you had, if you had to go off to reform school in Jamaica, and she looked at, families that had issues and stuff like that. We've come a long way. How do we explain it?
We certainly have, and to also add, our newest team is our elderly services team, and I think that speaks volumes to definitely the growth and the development in social work practice in the Cayman Islands, because before that you normally would require families, and we still do, families to be looking after their older persons, but then the needs of our older persons have become more complex as well. Their longevity has increased, their ability to continue to contribute beyond the age of retirement in the community has also increased. So we have to look at ways in which we value what they currently contribute, and also to enhance their lives and to provide the services that will enhance their lives, whilst educating the public about the aging process and how we all fit into that as a community. But going back to the question that you asked, definitely Cayman has certainly progressed in a number of ways. And it was a conversation that I've had with our DCO, Mr. E-Bikes, in terms of doing a symposium to actually look at the impact of the economic development in the Cayman Islands on social work services over the years. And previous director, Ms. Jen Dixon, she was really good at keeping historical data in terms of the various changes that took place since going from one staff member to now what we have 150 plus staff in our program. So again, with social development, with economic development comes change, comes needs. Unfortunately, some of those needs are not what we consider stuff that we want to put out to the public, but we have to be realistic. We have to address them, and from a social work perspective, it's about being more preventative than being reactive. We need to look at programs that are going to prevent the issues of child abuse, the issues of domestic violence, issues of elderly abuse, persons taking advantage of the vulnerable. That's where we need to source and fund programs that we can look back and say, okay, yes, we came to a certain plateau with our social issues, but we also became very creative and proactive to diminish those needs in our community.
Okay, we have about 2 minutes before we go to a break, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to give Ms. Tamara Hurlston an opportunity to respond to my question, and then when we return from the headline news at 9 o'clock, we want to talk more in depth about the needs assessment unit. Ms. Tamara.
Thank you, Mr. O.C., and Happy New Year's to everyone. I agree with... It's on, right? Yeah, sorry. Yes, I agree with everyone. I agree with the Director Paulinda in regards to the programs needed to enable our individuals to become self-sufficient and also to take care of themselves. Unfortunately, it's become a government issue in regards to who should take care of the community, the families, the elderly, the children. And I think we have moved away morally from where we were contributing more to the family unit as a community. And I agree with Ms. Paulinda that we need more programs within the districts, not only for intervention but preventative measures, and simple programs such as, budgeting, knowing how to, have proper nutrition with your home on a budget. And other programs for the elders, such which I know you're currently doing some programs for the elderly now, but having them contribute more, perhaps getting them to help us with, aiding persons in the community, taking care of their children. There are so many more things we can do with the resources we have as individuals that we're not taking part of or we're not contributing as a community. And we want to make sure that they realize, the community realize, we all realize this is not just a government issue, but it's actually a country issue. And we need to make sure we hit all those nails on the heads and we all contribute.
Okay, we're going to talk more about that when we return from our headline news at 9 o'clock. So please stay tuned. A conversation with MLA and Councillor Mr. Austin Harris, Deputy Chief Officer Mr. Ebanks, Director of the Needs Assessment Unit Ms. Tamara Hurlston, and Director of Children and Family Services Ms. Paulinda Mendoza Williams. Please stay tuned for the record. We'll be back shortly.
Follow Radio K-Man on Twitter. All the latest information, breaking news, community events, and more. Follow us at twitter.com/Radio K-Man. Radio K-Man. Radio K-Man's newsroom. These are the biggest stories right now.
The Botanic Park and the Garden Club team up for another successful family fun day. The general manager says hundreds turned out for Sunday's event, which featured music, food, a magic show, and face painting. You can follow the Botanic Park on Facebook for all the latest information. UK Prime Minister Theresa May is due to make a statement today on the way forward on Brexit after her planned deal was rejected by MPs last week. She hopes to win over Tory Brexiteer MPs and Northern Ireland's DUP by resolving their concerns over the, quote, backstop plan for the Irish border. Last week, Mrs. May said she would focus on cross-party talks to get a Brexit deal accepted by Parliament. And China says the scientist who claims to have created the world's first genetically edited babies last year acted illegally and in pursuit of fame and fortune. The man's claims to have altered twin girls' genes so that they could not get HIV was met with skeptics and outrage. Investigators say the researcher faces serious punishment after acting on his own and forging ethical review papers. Those are your headlines. I'm Karsley Fuller.
Radio K-Man, the voice of the Cayman Islands. What's happening in your community? News and information, music, and more. You can find us. www.radiocayman.gov.ky. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. Radio K-Man is your choice, your voice for today's biggest news. Radio K-Man.
Initiating system.
For information that matter. For the record with Orrett Connor. Continues right now on Radio K-Man.
Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. We're having a discussion on the social aspects of the Cayman Islands and the services provided. Joining me in that discussion is MLA and Councillor Mr. Austin Harris. Also with us, we have the Deputy Chief Officer, Mr. Ebanks. We have the Director of the Needs Assessment Unit, Ms. Hurlston, and we have the Director of Children and Family Services, Ms. Paulina Mendoza Williams. And I promise Ms. Hurlston we will be coming back to her right after the break. So I want to hear more about the Needs Assessment Unit, some of the challenges facing your unit as well, and some of the successes that you have achieved also.
Thank you, OC. The Needs Assessment Unit was established in 2013. As most of the public would already know, we were part of the Department of Children and Family Services, but we were the welfare component where we administered the financial services to the individuals. Mm-hmm. As a separate unit, we are guided by the Poor Relief Law, which Mr. Ebanks, the Deputy Chief Officer, will get into the legislation part of things because he's actively working on getting our legislation reviewed. Okay. But we basically have a law that it's 2 paragraphs, I believe, long, and it really does not cover the gamut of what we should be covering now that we've developed into the country that we are today. Mm-hmm. With success also come other needs, social needs, and that is where we're going to try to address those social factors within the revised legislation. However, some of the services that we provide rental accommodations, food, We also provide another adult special needs program, which is placement of individuals in homes. Currently, the only home we have available to us outside of the homes at the Department of Children and Family Services is the Pines residence. So we also provide that service. We provide other services such as utility payments, school uniforms, school lunches, preschool, after school. So we have a gamut of services, including the poor relief. That's one of our bigger ones for the elderly, actually, which is a $750 cash stipend, which was just increased this month to $750 that they receive monthly as some sort of a pension contribution. So those are some of the services financially that we provide. The amount of clients or families that we serve at the moment is about 2,044 families, and they vary from an individual of one to families that might be over 7, 8 with extended family and children involved. Our clientele, although it encompasses the disabled, the elderly, and families, the biggest area we see that is increasing is beyond just the elderly, who naturally they're aging and they have more needs, is also the single family unit, unfortunately, which would mostly be the single mothers. Contrary to popular belief that most of our clients aren't working in that gamut, they're usually working. They're just, they don't have sufficient income to take care of their household. So unfortunately, that becomes a long-term problem for that family. And they're already employed, so technically speaking, you have to subsidize that income until further notice or until the government no longer have the funds to do so. The average income of someone in a single family household can be anywhere between $1,000 to $1,500 if they're working as a cashier, for instance, at a local grocery store, which, as we know, with rental alone being approximately around $1,500, with the market for a smaller unit, a family with children, it would be difficult for them to find accommodations and to sustain themselves on that type of an income.
Precisely.
So some of the things we're looking at is looking at a standard rate, which the working group, as Mr. Austin spoke about, where I chair, but I'm deputy chaired by the deputy chief officer, who's done a lot of work within the working group to get to where we need to be with legislation, and he's even looking at a standard rate, because right now we realize that even though we have the $3,000 income as a maximum for a household, there are many households above that amount that actually need additional assistance. Unfortunately, we don't have enough funds to carry through for every household. But even with the clients that we're currently servicing, we're seeing a need in there. As we spoke about previously, rental accommodation is one of the biggest issues we currently have with our families, with the interest rates going up recently, and I think it was about 4 times last year. For this year, it's already hit us in January, one was done in December, and it's expected to go up 2 to 3 more times this year. It's becoming even more and more difficult to place individuals. We also serve the mentally challenged individuals, clients with mental health issues, and they too find challenges finding accommodations, as you can imagine, for various reasons. And these are some of the challenges that we have at the Needs Assessment Unit with finding services for all of our clientele. Some of the other issues that we're having issues with is currently, our stipend that we give is meant to be a supplementary fund. So what we give for food services, for instance, is inadequate. We know that for a family to live on. The idea was always that the families would actually be able to contribute elsewhere, whether they could gain employment, etc. But for the population that's vulnerable, such as our permanently disabled individual who will never be able to work, and also for our elderly who either have little to no pension, the reality is, how do they then live on the substance, the amounts that we are currently giving them? And we know it's inadequate. So we are actually looking to see if we can network between a nutritionist and ESO to see what would be a proper costing for a household, a food basket per se, per an individual, to see what would adequately, should be provided to families in need. And that's something we want to present, to the government, who've been very good in giving us additional increases over the years. But the reality is, where we're at currently is going to be insufficient to meet our current needs and for what we project throughout the future. Underemployment is something that we're seeing more and more where it's an issue. Persons may have been employed previously and may have had a job that they could sustain themselves. But with the job market now, it's basically, you're thankful to get a job no matter what your degree or your position is. And so persons are finding themselves making less funds or less income than they were maybe 3 to 5 years ago. And then that, of course, becomes an additional person or family that we now have to serve through the needs assessment unit. So even underemployment is also causing an increase in the need for our services.
Okay, Mr. Harris did mention some private sector organizations like Feeder Future, Cayman. What assistance do we get from them? How do they help in filling some of the gaps and some of the needs, like school lunches? Provision of uniforms and things of that nature.
Certainly to the point, thank you for that question, O.C., and certainly to complement the response that you just received from Ms. Tamara. When we look at food vouchers, for example, and what is made available from the government, arguably may not be sufficient to feed a family for a month. One of the challenges that we have in the delivery of social assistance is that there isn't a bucket full of money and an unending amount of money. There are budgets, and this is what we have to work with because the demands of our people across ministries are wide, so we have to live within our means. But we also acknowledge that the cost of living, some of the external forces such as, again, interest rate hikes and otherwise, do have a negative impact on our people. The fact that the government depends on the private sector to supplement the social assistance programs, I think, is well known. On food vouchers, certainly acts of random kindness, persons who can provide a little bit more assistance to families in need, certainly work towards the holistic approach to addressing the needs of our people in the Cayman Islands. And certainly I cannot say enough how important it is that the work of the nonprofit organizations, the work of several private sector individuals for embracing this problem and making it and understanding that this is a Cayman problem. This isn't a departmental problem. It is a Cayman problem that we all have to, play our role. We talk about and I've got to be careful when I say this, but we talk about, in some cases, the disintegration of the family unit. 20, 30 years ago, the young cared for the old. We've had organizations such as Meals on Wheels that deliver food to people and to families who, if it weren't for the people, the volunteers on Meals on Wheels, these families may never see another human being. Now, these are persons with large and extended families. Ask the question, where is their family in all of this? Again, you get many different answers. They, too, are dealing with the challenges of life and sometimes are having great difficulty keeping their own heads above water. But the point is that over the last 30 years or so, we have seen where families have taken care of families now for the over-dependence, if you will, on government filling those gaps. And the reality is we simply don't have those kind of resources to do it entirely on our own. It is a troubling reality, but it is one that we are confident that we can address, but it can only be addressed with the participation of all of society, private and public sector.
Okay, Mr. Ebanks, I want you to talk more about the legislation and where we are with that and where we want to be as far as having robust legislation in place that will allow these two young ladies here to be able to function and to do their jobs much better.
Sure. You taking a break now? Or do you want
No,
me to start now?
you can start now, yes.
Good morning to you and good morning, Cayman.
Good morning again, sir.
I'll start by making apologies for the chief officer. She had an urgent family matter to attend to and couldn't be with us, but she would have been. So I'll soldier on in her stead. I take a step back and just mention that the chief officer and I started in March of last year. And although you deal with a number of troubling issues in this ministry that affect the most vulnerable, I believe the government, the ministry, and the country has a wonderful opportunity to try to help those in need right now, if we put our minds to it. There's that saying, that if you don't know where you're going, you're going to wind up someplace else. So our goal is to create sustainable, transformative financial assistance services. In order to do that, there are many things that go into that. You mentioned your question legislation that I'll get to in a moment, enhancing procedures. But I also want to bolster what the counselor has said and what both directors have emanated from their comments, is that in our press release of last week, where we announced we're going to enter into the second phase of consultation, we deliberately had GIS put into that a call to action. This is a countrywide issue. This is something that impacts all of us. If we don't band together and put all of our collective skills and experiences to sit down around the table and say, how do we figure this out? Then it impacts all of us. It impacts the next generation. It impacts crime. It impacts the very social fabric of the country. So in my view, the second stage of the consultation is not just to solely focus on legislation, which is but a tool, but also for us to get serious as a country and examine these issues. Everyone will bring a different perspective. From our standpoint, as Tamara is the chair of the working group and as deputy chair, we can see that there are certain things that have to be in place. The legislation is outdated. There were attempts in the past, to try to have regulations underneath the principal law in order to strengthen it. But we had to take a step back, as I said in the public accounts meeting last week, to say, well, hang on a second. If the principal law is falling short, how can you then have regulations underneath of that law that outpace the law? Then I think our concern was that someone could have a valid claim against this and say, how did Cabinet make these regulations in the first place if they don't have all of these powers under the principal law? So we have to take a step back and try to create legislation that works. I don't know how much time I have, if you want to take a break. But
we can take the break at this juncture, and then when we return, then you continue.
What the legislation is seeking to achieve,
sure,
and some other initiatives.
Folks, please stay tuned. We're going to take a quick commercial break. When we return, the conversation will continue.
I remember playing at 7 Mile Beach as a boy, eating mango by the sea, learning how to snorkel. My mother, she worked so hard to provide for our family so that we could have those moments. Seeing her age has been tough. That strong, capable woman, now in need of daily support, it's my time to be strong for her.
CTMH Doctors Hospital Pharmacy understands the importance of the careful decisions you make every day for your family. Our staff work towards healthcare excellence and providing the most current and up-to-date training with pharmaceutical care, so you can feel confident in knowing that your family is safe with the right medication. At CTMH Doctors Hospital Pharmacy, we take care of your health.
Monday through Friday, 3 to 6 p.m. Radio Cayman Super Jam Show, the #1 drive time entertainment show on your radio, featuring Bill Sinatra.
Enjoy a mix of pop, hip-hop, reggae, dancehall, Latin, soca, urban gospel, old school.
The Super Jam Show is fueled by the proud sponsorship of insurance agent Michael Webster from Cayman Insurance Center.
Don't take chances with your family's future.
On Thursday, January the 17th at 12:15 p.m., you can hear CI Retro's Talk Today's special program presentation on Cayman Islands culture and heritage, focusing in on Heroes Day, celebrating Cayman. Brought to you by Atlantic Supply Limited, the Cayman Islands' foremost heavy equipment and construction equipment dealer since 1983. Atlantic Supply Limited, 398 North Sound Road in Georgetown. That's CI Retro Talk Today, Thursday, 12:15 p.m. on Radio Cayman.
Hello, I am Noel March, a small business owner in Georgetown for over 20 years. Small businesses depend on government to develop a quality infrastructure and environment that encourages entrepreneurs to create and grow local businesses, resulting in the creation of jobs and prosperity for Caymanians. Small businesses help drive our economy. Just as we have supported building the new airport, we must support the building of the new cargo and cruise port. It will give our tourism industry the opportunity to grow and Caymanian entrepreneurs the chance to shine. Support the port. Support our tourism.
Headlines.
With the latest headlines.
Headlines.
All the news when you want it. Tune in to Radio K-Man for hourly headlines of the day's top stories.
One of K-Man's bright and shining young stars.
Local, regional, international.
Headlines.
Turning to international news.
Updates on the hour between 7 a.m. and 6 p.m. on weekdays. Radio K-Man News.
Headlines.
Your voice, your choice for today's biggest news.
Initiating system.
For information that matter. For the record. With Orrett Connor. Continues right now on Radio K-Man.
Good morning, and welcome back to For the Record. We have around the table with us this morning MLA and Councillor Mr. Austin Harris, Deputy Chief Officer in the Ministry, Mr. Andre Ebanks, Director of Children and Family Services, Ms. Paulinda Mendoza Williams, and Director of the Needs Assessment Unit, Ms. Tamara Hurlston. And before we went to the break, we were talking with Mr. Ebanks, the Deputy Chief Officer. Mr. Ebanks, back to you, sir.
So I think the point that we left off was me summarizing a number of tools that we're seeking to either enhance or implement to bring about our reforms. One of which is the legislation. You heard the NU director mention that the legislation that she currently operates under is essentially 2 or 3 paragraphs. It was initially enacted in 1964, I believe, and its last revision was in the late 90s. I've said this before last week in the Public Accounts Committee meeting and in other places, but I think it bears repeating. One of the things that we must do is change the name of that legislation. No disrespect to our forefathers, but in 1964, Poor Persons Relief Law may have made sense. Yes. But in this day and
English
age,
terminology,
yes,
British terminology.
It may have made sense. In 2019, I don't think that's where we need to be. We need to signal to the most vulnerable that we are financially assisting them to get them back on their feet, or to those who are in the category, as the NU director has mentioned, who for whatever unfortunate circumstances cannot work again. We're aiding them, we're assisting them. They're not poor persons, we're relieving. We're also, underneath that law, want to actually clearly define the powers of the Needs Assessment Unit. What exactly is financial assistance? What are the conditions that must be fulfilled in order to obtain financial assistance? How could it be varied, changed, even suspended or revoked? If a person who is receiving it feels aggrieved, that there be an appeals tribunal put in place, that if they for some reason disagree with the wise director of the NEU, that there's another set of recourse outside of the political sphere that they can go to. Yes. And then to have a clear regulation-making power of exactly what Cabinet can and cannot do underneath the law. But I don't want to make the law sound like it's going to be the cure-all. It is just but one tool. We're reverting back to the consultation that I mentioned. It's also in terms of what can we do to actually improve the service itself that clients are coming into. One of the ways in speaking to not only clients, but also NEU staff and DCFS staff is improving our technology to enhance our database so that it's not just chugging along every day dealing with the transactional processes, but it's used as a tool in a way to arm government to marshal that data with more statistics of exactly who we're dealing with. Because one of the things that I think we need to get our head around, and I think an improved database can do that, is categorizing the client by their economic, social, or health status so that you can have clear buckets of who's where and what are the desired outcomes we're trying to get for each person in those buckets in order to design either remedies or in the long term, preventative methods so that we move away to your question, which was spot on, the growth of services. It's because, to be blunt, we're dealing with multi-generational issues. And the only way to stop the bleeding is to understand exactly who is at what station of life and how do we get them out of there. If we don't do that, to your point, we're just going to get busier, and growth in this area is not a good thing. This is not financial services and tourism where the stats going up are a good thing. Success in this area is a reduction to have it more manageable if not eliminated. And the only way we're going to get to do that is if we know who the clients are and meet them where they are. So once we get through that exercise of categorizing the clients, this ministry here that deals with the effects of these social ills is ground zero to then arm the other ministries who are in a better position by their nature to deal with prevention of it. And say to the Ministry of Health, this is what we're seeing, these are the stats. Say to the Ministry of Education, this is what we're seeing, these are the stats. And band together, because we're not going to do it alone. But I don't want to make it sound like it's not hopeful. We have some advantages. The country is small. Everybody on this island can fit into the stadium where the Super Bowl is going to be held in 2 weeks' time. We have to be able to figure this out.
Yes.
Who is where? What are you struggling with? And how do we get you out of this to move you to the next station in life? Or those who unfortunately will not be able to work, that they have dignity.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely. No, I mean, certainly I think the Deputy Chief Officer really has laid out what are the broad strokes of the ministry's overall strategy, to provide value for money, which is important from a policy maker's position. Certainly to the taxpayer of this country, they want to know that the country's money is being spent wisely by helping the right people at the right time to enable our clients to live with dignity and, when able-bodied, to deliver provisional financial assistance to clients seeking to secure independent income. In other words, to provide temporary means, that all-important hand up during difficult times that will enable them to, again, manage their own lifestyle on their own by being properly employed and receiving the necessary income in order to meet their monthly and annual obligations. That's why I think it is important to recognize that the Ministry of Community Affairs also falls under the same Ministry for Human Resources, because we believe that the job market and employment and gainful employment has a significant relevance to the amount of clients you're going to have on the social assistance side. When you're dealing with depressed wages, when you're dealing with redundancies and terminations, when you're dealing with foreclosures, all of those things have a dramatic impact in terms of what kind of clientele you're going to have. I was chatting this morning with the DCO in terms of statistics. I mean, whilst it is my gut feeling, and I say that unequivocally, it's my gut feeling because I don't have the statistics to support it right now. But I'm confident that if they were available, it would support the argument. 2007, 2008, the global financial meltdown had many cause and effects on the Cayman Islands. Much like Ms. Tamara pointed out, there are global situations, global reactions that impact the Cayman Islands. Interest rates going up. That is outside of our control. But it will have a negative ramification in terms of social assistance. How are we going to deal with it? So those are some of the broad strokes that we are looking at, that we'd like to see achieved in the overall strategy. We have some guidance that we, as policymakers in the government, are certainly using to get us there. The first broad outcome is, of course, we want to achieve positive experiences for all of our clients. In other words, this is the service delivery side. How do you talk to and provide assistance to those most vulnerable? Remembering that you're human. And again, you're dealing with persons who are in perhaps on their last leg or in challenging circumstances, single mothers with children to feed. Anxiety is at an all-time high. How do you deliver these services with human kindness and understanding? Then there is, seeking to align our services with outcomes, with operations, to improve our IT systems. You've heard in PAC the need to address our existing database, in which our case officers use to inform them as to what are the specific needs of clients. We need to implement the appropriate legal and regulatory framework, which, again, the DCO just outlined in terms of the poor relief law. How do we amend legislation to fit the times and make it fit for purpose? We need to increase the collaboration and information sharing of multiple ministries. What this is breaking down silos. As we talked about, the delivery of social assistance stems long past the Ministry of Community Affairs, Ministry of Health, Ministry of Home Affairs. Each department has vital information that can be part of the solution that will come in the future. But if we're not sharing that information, we're not knowledgeable of that information, if we don't have this information at our fingertips so that our case officers on the front lines can use this information, then we're failing our clients. And then finally, of course, we have to deliver services with qualified and motivated staff that have the assurance that they are fulfilling a mandate in which they have the full support of the ministry and the government. So these are the broad strokes that we're working with. Certainly the consultations that we're engaged in will inform this strategy, and we are confident that perhaps by the mid part of this year we will have a strategy that we can roll out to the public and say this is going to be our specific approach and this is how we are going to overcome these challenges. But again, I cannot say it enough, this is a Caymanian problem, and therefore the feedback that will be contained in the second phase of these consultations, the working groups that will be established. I encourage persons who will reach out to the ministry, to NAU, to DCFS, to be honest with your experiences with NAU. One of the things that will be involved in the second round of consultation is we'll be chatting with existing NAU clients and existing NAU landlords to tell us what works, what doesn't work, what are you happy with, what are you unhappy with, how do you believe we can improve the service, until we are prepared to perhaps drop our own ego and believe that we don't have all the answers, but actually solicit what are the problems. Then we believe we can produce the desired outcome.
Okay, I think we have one call we're going to try to take before we close the show off. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Hi, good morning, Mr. Oki, and good morning to the STM panel.
Good morning, ma'am. How are you?
Good morning.
Great. I just wanted to direct this one to Mr. Ebanks, which he certainly gave us a good overview of what's going to happen. But I have a question on terms of nomenclature and purpose. You have, over the years, had one law, which was the Poor Persons Law, but yet you developed the Social Services Department. And then over the years, they split the Social Service Department, and it is now Children and Family Services. And then we have a unit called Needs Assessment. Now, it's to that assessment that I point my message is that can someone tell me what is needs assessment? Is it a holistic system, or is it closely connected with the social services? Because from what Paulinda said, it's a whole gamut of things that the Children and Family Services do. So I can't see how you can separate an evaluative purpose in the social services and just give it to the needs assessment. I think that has to be streamlined very carefully, because if not, we will be going in 2, 4, 3, 5 different directions for the people of this country. And sometimes when we go in those directions, money goes down the drain. Not for the people, but how it is done. And I'm not trying to be offensive or anything, but it's something that has bothered me for a while now. In terms is the word, what is needs assessment? Could you then, I know you don't have time, but it's something to give Mr. Ebanks and the esteemed panel there to think about. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, caller, for that. And I'll just add one more question. Don't take the headphones off yet. One person offline inquired also in terms of landlord payments, why sometimes there's a lag in terms of payment as well. I want to give you an opportunity to answer both of those questions.
All right. I'll take a stab first, and then Mr. Ebanks can follow through.
Sure.
I'll start with the caller's question in regards to what is needs assessment. Back in 2010, there was a review of the Department in Children and Family Services, which created the needs assessment unit. The understanding at that time was that social workers were not able to do proper social work and intervention measures and programs within the communities due to the fact that they were dealing with the financial needs of individuals. And it was made the decision was made at that time to create the needs assessment unit, which was then piloted through the Department of Children and Family Services in 2012, and eventually it split into its own department in 2013. With that being said, what that allowed was two gamuts of things. When a client is focusing on their most eminent need at the time, which is going to most likely be financial, they're able to go to a separate department and deal with those needs, those financial needs. Our department then refer persons if we see there's other intervention that needs to be done. For instance, if someone has a substance abuse problem, then we will send them over to the department that deals with that. If they need counseling, Department of Counseling. If they have health issues, we send them to HSA. If there are social factors that we see that needs to be dealt with, we send them to Department of Children and Family Services. So whereas, and it's not that you can come to one department, whether DCFS or Ministry of Health, Education, no department has every service available at one standpoint. Mm-hmm. But what is to happen is to have that case management approach where when we see a need, we refer them to the agency that have the expertise, and they are then able to do the measures that's needed for that individual family. So that's the reason why the Needs Assessment Unit was created. It was based on a review that was done with many professionals, including social workers, and it was indicated at that time, and the benefits are being seen now, where having the financial factor removed from the social work allows social workers to do social work. So that's that first question.
Okay, Sandra?
Sure, go ahead.
To the second one. I thought I recognized the voice. If the caller who I thought she is, I love her dearly, and her and I have had many engaging conversations on that specific question. Okay. Yes, Tamar has outlined the history, but also to alleviate any concern she has, we're also contemplating how the two departments continue to coexist in the future in our reforms. So we mentioned earlier that Tamar is the chair of the working group, but also Belinda, as director of DCFS, is also in the working group, because I understand the point. We don't want to create something that's siloed away from DCFS, which we don't intend to do. They're very much integral to the process in working out how the services how the synergies will continue to grow and be better. So we are looking at that.
Okay, Ms. Belinda.
Allow me to also add, in terms of when you're looking at an individual coming in for financial assistance, basic needs. So persons need food, housing, and shelter. It is quite difficult to engage someone in other areas of intervention because their focus at the time is basically just having some basic needs, being able to take care of their family. So whilst we have the Needs Assessment Unit, again, DCFS works very closely with our sister agency, we're able to provide those other areas where we do that intervention work, whether the referral has to do with any child protection matter, issues of family concerns in terms of any family conflicts, providing that intervention there as well. Following on to what DCO spoke about, again, whilst historically welfare was under the department, we were also able to do a level of case management with those persons who were quite cyclic in regards to financial assistance, and look at how do we basically hold that person's hand and help them along to, again, become more self-sufficient. So we're exploring that avenue again in terms of having social workers who will engage in that case management process where they'll advocate, they'll basically handhold and walk certain clients through the various systems in order for them to become self-sufficient or completely be removed from the welfare assistance. We cannot look at the solution as, Councillor Harris spoke of, and DCO and Tamara spoke of. This is a holistic view. You have to look at the person and the individuals, the family grouping as a whole. The number of social issues transcend, and if you don't have persons who are able to care for their families, care for their children, what you have is then the ills of a society where you have criminal activity, where you have child abuse, domestic violence, substance abuse, and the list goes on. So in order to be able to address those issues holistically, we have to look at starting where the client is at, being able to offer those services, and then run the gamut of complementary interventions through that.
Okay, we're way over time, but I just want to give you an opportunity just to answer the question in relation to landlords.
In regards to the landlord situation, we currently have direct deposit as an option for landlords at the moment. Some landlords are hesitant to take advantage of that for various reasons, not having online banking and that sort of information. However, we are pretty much within par. We've had several audits, whether or not we're paying within time frame we are. The problem we have is persons don't realize is by the time the client comes in, they're already past due on their rent. So then they have to go through the assessment process. There's a rental guarantee that is signed between the client and the landlord, and we cannot, that's not a valid contract until it's signed by both parties. So where one might sign at one date, the other comes in at another date. And then of course that then needs to be entered and processed for payment. And of course naturally then we wait on a check. The check then is delivered to the department. It goes through registered mail. So there is a long process. We have been looking at streamlining that process, one of them being the direct deposits that we just implemented in October of last year. And where there are other things the working group is also looking at in streamlining, even having landlords pre-register to be landlords of the unit. So we have recognized that there are efficiencies to gain, and we are working very hard to gain those efficiencies. So that's in case. And since this is probably the last time I'll be speaking before we head up, I just wanted to say thank you to the staff who are all listening. And they do a very good job, hard work weekends. And I just want to say thank you to them because they are appreciated as much as people, they may feel sometimes that they're not. They are very well appreciated.
Okay, I want to thank you all for being here as well. Folks, I want to thank you for allowing Radio Cayman and by extension For the Record into your homes, into your vehicles as you traverse the busy roads of the Cayman Islands, into your places of work, whether it be an office cubicle or if you're working in the outdoors. I also want to remind you that we are our brothers and our sisters' keepers. There is always someone out there who's less fortunate than we are, and I ask you to extend a helping hand to them. If you can't do that, then I suggest you donate to a worthy charity, because we always want to consider those who need, not necessarily those who want or even those who crave. I say to you, have a great day. Continue to support your radio station, Radio Cayman. Join Sterling Dwayne Banks at 12:15 for Talk Today. And I also want to shout out to DJ Lynn and to say to him that we here at Radio Cayman, our prayers are with you. Our support is behind you as well during this period of your loss. And we just say to you, stay strong. God bless. And as usual, we ask the good Lord to bless these three beautiful Cayman Islands as well.
For the Record is brought to you by Vamped Motors, the only authorized Ford and Toyota dealership serving the Cayman Islands. And Cayman Pharmacy Group, with locations in West Base and professional pharmacy at CTMH Doctors Hospital. The Cayman Pharmacy Group has a location for you just around the corner.
Shaken yet standing firm. This is Radio Cayman in the Cayman Islands.